Good evening. Good to have you with us on the 8 p.m. edition of the Urban Debate. Tonight, we put the spotlight on Kashmir and the series of incidents of civilians being targeted, especially those of minority communities or those perceived to be close to the police or the government. It has raised a big concern in the valley. Yet again, horrific killings of citizens of Kashmir targeted specifically by these terrorists. Kashmiri Pandit Makhanlal Bindru was one of the first who got shot dead 2 days ago. He was the owner of a well-known medical store in Srinagar, extremely renowned Kashmiri Pandit, who had chosen to stay back in the valley despite the insurgency. Then a street vendor, a non-Kashmiri, was shot dead. Virender Paswan, who belonged to Bihar but was as a street vendor earning a livelihood in Srinagar, was gunned down. Then a civilian, Mohammad Shafi Lone, was shot in Bandipur, head of the local taxi stand, perceived to be a police informant who are always in danger in Kashmir. And then came the attack on a principal, a school principal and a teacher, shot dead. One Kashmiri Sikh, one Kashmiri Pandit, teacher, bringing about changes in education and in the lives of young children, targeted and killed and silenced in the valley. These are the kind of attacks that are alarming for obvious reasons. The trend and the pattern that you can see here is intended to be exactly that. Civilians from particular communities are being targeted to send a message across to the people in the valley and to instill a sense of fear in the minorities and the non-Kashmiris. A message that this is not a place that is safe for you. A message that the terrorists and their backers do not want peace or a new Kashmir. An intent to really create communal fear amongst people in communal disharmony in the valley. So tonight, our focus is going to be, how do you deal with this challenge? Kashmir has seen conflict now for decades, and it's a very challenging one. There isn't an easy answer. There isn't an immediate solution. But something has to be done to make everybody living there feel safe, as if they belong there and they are safe. How do we do that? I say good evening to Brigadier Anil Gupta, spokesperson for BJP, Imran Nabidar, spokesperson for JKNC, Mr. Kuldeep Koda, former DGP of Jammu and Kashmir, Lieutenant General Rakesh Sharma, joining me this evening as well, and Aarti Tikku, Strategic Affairs Analyst, founder and editor at The New Indian. Thank you so much to all of you for speaking with us. And I want to start off with Brigadier Gupta. Brigadier Gupta, how does your party and how do you see this as a challenge? What's the way forward?
It's a big challenge, there is no doubt. But to my mind, there's a need for a change in mindset. The concept of us and they, us and outsiders, that has to be wiped out from among the civil society in Kashmir. The Kashmiris have to start thinking of everyone being part of India. That has not yet sunk in most of the Kashmiris' mind. And that's why they always keep talking of us, they, outsiders. Even today in social media, I've read that Mohalla committees must ensure that no outsider or no non-Kashmiri Muslim is given land, is given houses on rent, and they are not given domiciles. All such posts on social media are very disturbing. They are the ones which are causing this type of problem. But we also have to look at the fact that Pakistan is exploiting this, and Pakistan is ensuring that peace does not return to Kashmir. For that, it is ready to go to any length. Terrorism is on the wane, there's no doubt. But then they are now, for publicity's sake, looking for soft targets. And these soft targets are the targeted killings. They are not only among minority communities. Muslims have also been targeted. They have been killed. BJP workers have been killed. They are Muslims. But then such killing of such soft targets, as rightly said, creates a fear psychosis, which is not good for the morale of the population. The government has to act fast, government has to act swift, and the government has to act tough. The police agencies have to get up, they have to pull up the socks. The intelligence is lacking somewhere. That has to be spruced up.
Okay, so you say, of course, the big change has to be in the mindset that the people need to believe and change the way some of them may think. The other, in the short term, you have to step up on security. So let me bring in Mr. Kuldeep Koda on that. Mr. Koda, how do we deal with this challenge that we are staring at? Obviously, we can't allow, an atmosphere of fear in the region.
The developments have not come as a surprise. After the developments in Afghanistan, in which the jihadi groups got a moral booster, and some of the statements emanating from Afghanistan Taliban, particularly the Haqqani group, and also the Pakistan establishment, including Pakistan Prime Minister Imran Khan, who saw the Afghanistan developments as a victory of Taliban over American forces. So these sort of developments is expected. In the recent past, you have seen after the Afghanistan developments, the infiltration on the borders, especially in Poonch, Rajouri, have increased, and Rajouri, Poonch have also come under target of Pakistanis. And a few encounters have taken place on the border in which terrorists were killed. And then combined it with the statements of separatists in Kashmir that outsiders will not be allowed here. Brigadier Gupta talked about the social media campaign that's going on, that outsiders need not be given domicile certificates, and they have issued threats to the Tahsildars and others who are issuing domicile certificates not to issue the domicile certificates to outsiders. So the radicalization is increased, and more than that, the LET cadres and the Jaish cadres who were involved in fighting in Afghanistan along with Taliban, they have been relieved. It was natural that they will be diverted towards Kashmir. So, in view of this foreground, we have to brace up for the increased incidents. And targeting the minorities is one of the easiest things because they are soft targets, they are spread out lots of areas. It is not possible to provide individual security, even if there has been intelligence inputs coming on from particularly from 21st of September that minorities will be targeted. But the teachers and others like Principal Satinder Kaur or Deepak Chand teacher have been killed. These targets are very soft targets. And this is enough to spread fear psychosis among the minorities. And the killing of Makhalal Bindru has been followed by threat calls given to many Kashmiri Pandits also now in Valley. And another prominent businessman has left for Jammu along with his family, who was there all along for 32 years. His old father has stayed back, and his grandson from abroad is calling his friends Valley to persuade grandfather also to move up. And the teachers who have been employed there in package, they are spread over entire Valley. And there is a serious thinking among them also to move out now. So these developments are quite disturbing, and something has to be done. We have to realize there is a deep state of Islamic terrorism. Unless the fountainhead of terrorism is addressed, these problems are going to continue. No amount of security is going to provide security to all minorities who are spread all over the valley, including Hindus and Sikhs. So a comprehensive plan has to be drafted to deal with Pakistan and to deal with the radicalized elements in valley. So unless and until we have a very comprehensive Kashmir policy to deal with terrorism, we cannot move forward much. We can have the optics of raising national flags at government buildings. We can organize rallies with a lot of protection, but that's not going to change the ground situation. The optics have to match with the ground situation. So we need to realize that lots of things, there are lots of loose ends which need to be tied up before we can think of any rehabilitation or return of KPs or ensuring that the minorities are safe in Kashmir.
Okay, fair point. We need a comprehensive policy to tackle the radicalization and the terror push that continues. One aspect, of course, and what the government has been trying for several years now, is to bring about development, to give a sense of inclusion. But that's obviously a slow process. It can't happen overnight, and it's going to be a long drawn process. Then General Rakesh Sharma, in the meantime, this challenge stares at us, irrespective of the number of operations we carry out. We can hunt down terrorists when we get the information. But like Mr. Koda said, we literally can't be putting security in front of everyone's house.
Thank you, Tanvi. Thank you for inviting me. My heartfelt condolences for those who lost their lives in the course of the last few days and also today. May they rest in peace. And it's very disconcerting to hear all these news. Now, let me first put it this way, that I take it that these are not random killings. These are not just terrorist actions. They are planned. They are listed. They are well available with the terrorists as to who has to be targeted and when. So these are well-planned operations. So this is kind of an ethnic cleansing being carried out to instill a kind of fear among people, because they know whom to be targeted, when to be targeted, where will be these people available, and what has to be done. So if it is so well planned, which obviously it is not a casual manner of terrorist actions. So if it is so well planned, it has to be orchestrated in a manner that there is some kind of a people who are managing it well. And obviously, it is Pakistan which has opened the tap here. They have been controlling over the last 30 years the terrorism as they felt necessary, in periods they felt necessary. So they have the control on the level of terrorism that takes place. This is a time when the level of terrorism in the valley has been heightened. It has been increased. And there has been a focus given by the planners from across the borders as to what exactly and who to be targeted in which manner. So, that brings a new focus to the whole situation, where that this is a planned operation being carried out. These are no random issues. That makes it, and if it is so deliberate in nature, that makes it that the plan to contest it should be as targeted and as focused as possible. If we see what has happened, I'm not even referring to last 10 days alone, but if you see the large drug haul found in Islamabad Nala near Uri, that found, and down south in Gujarat, also what the Chief Minister of Punjab said, the weapons are being dropped by drones. Then the drones, of course, seen in the area down south of Samba and those areas. So, when you see that the whole sector is being gradually activated either by drugs or by dropping in weapons, and then inciting the radical elements within the valley for taking on action, because the infiltration has been dropped down to a trickle. If both these issues are relevant and important, that there is a large planned issue on increasing the level of terrorism, and second, that there is a planned supply of weaponry and a planned movement of terrorists which was being brought about, say, for example, Islamabad Nala, it means we have to have a focused approach. And I absolutely agree with Mr. Koda and what Brigadier Gupta had said. You can't provide protection to everybody. And since this instills a level of fear, there will be more and more demands by ethnic minorities to the police to provide safety in the cities as also in various other areas. Yes. I think we have to get the intelligence sorted out. Every time something happens, we go back to intelligence. But the fact of the matter is that we have been relying excessively on technological end. We have to get the humans going, because finally it is the human intelligence that will give us some kind of clue, some kind of methodology being followed, some kind of plan being made which comes out from the human intelligence. It may not be so easily available in the technological intelligence. So get the intelligence going, and then of course make a long-term plan. I would not hesitate to say, Tanvi, that there may be a possibility of the ceasefire going off in times to come. Because the way things are happening across the border, the ceasefire that came into being in February seems to be tottering now. At one time, we'll have to, if there's a next attempt or the third attempt across of infiltration, well, I don't think the ceasefire will last that long. So we have to now get prepared for this whole situation, and to say that winter months are easy. I don't think there is any change in winter months or summer months nowadays. This process continues throughout the year. So we, as rightly pointed out by Mr. Koda, we have to get across to make a deliberate plan against a deliberate offensive being carried out in the valley.
Okay, you're absolutely right. And the point that you mentioned about human intelligence, I think even the other side of the terrorists are very well aware of that, which is why they don't hesitate to target anybody who's suspected, even suspected to be somebody close to the establishment or maybe giving information to the establishment, because they too want to shut that option down. I will come back to you experts in just a bit for more on what you feel is this comprehensive strategy that we should use. But let me bring in Aarti Tikku. Aarti, to the point that our experts are making, that until we're able to get a handle on this situation, perhaps a large return of Kashmiri Pandits to the valley or even others seeking domicile may not be possible. And what is your view on that?
Clearly, Tanvi, it is not going to be easy for this government or for that matter, any government to ensure that Kashmiri Pandits will get back to Kashmir and get rehabilitated in these circumstances. I think the entire community, which was ethnically cleansed in 1990, has been repeatedly saying for the last 30 years that until and unless there's a conducive atmosphere, return and rehabilitation is not possible. And in fact, I would say that it is this reason, precisely this reason, that Pakistan has been rattled in the last 2 years, because after the nullification of Article 370, after the amendments in the land laws, after the amendments in domicile laws, it was quite clear that the road ahead was for the return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits, and also the fact that there were amendments in the land laws. We would have seen a lot of businesses coming into Jammu and Kashmir. We would have seen investments coming into Jammu and Kashmir. And we would have also seen people coming and looking for opportunities in Kashmir. And this, of course, scares Pakistan pretty badly because it changes the entire dynamic in J&K. It has been their persistent effort in the last 30 years. I would, in fact, say that in the last 70 years or so, Pakistan's one-point agenda has been to destabilize Jammu and Kashmir, to project Jammu and Kashmir as a conflict state, to project Kashmir as something which is in favor of Pakistan. But truth be told, in the last 2 years, a lot of Kashmiri Muslims were on the streets raising flags. A lot of Kashmiri Muslims were on television talking about how they are looking forward to a future with the rest of India as other states are. Now, I would say that the biggest elephant in the room today really is Pakistan Army and ISI, because they definitely feel emboldened by the withdrawal of the US troops from Afghanistan. And mind you, for your audience, I want to remind everybody that the Biden administration withdrew from Afghanistan in a very responsible way. They left arms and ammunition for Taliban, for organizations like Al-Badr. If you remember, Al-Badr reorganized itself dramatically after the international pressure was put on Pakistan. Pakistan was brought under FATF's grey list. There were warnings to Pakistan from India. We also did some surgical strikes against Jaish-e-Mohammed in Balakot. And that really rattled Pakistan because they, for them, Jaish-e-Mohammed, Lashkar-e-Taiba, Hizbul Mujahideen remain their strategic assets against India. And that is why they reorganized all these groups and they pushed a lot of their terrorists into an organization called Al-Badr. A lot of them infiltrated into Jammu and Kashmir in the last few years.
Yes.
And they lying low. We must also know that I am not sure whether it is public knowledge or not, but what I am told, what I have been hearing from a lot of my sources, official sources, is that Tehreek-e-Taliban Pakistan, some elements from that group, Afghan Mujahideen, some of the elements from Afghanistan as well, they've already infiltrated into Jammu and Kashmir. And whatever is happening is not surprising. This was expected. But what is really surprising is that that the government of India hasn't come out with a statement yet.
Yeah.
I hope that the government of India comes with a statement and warns Pakistan very clearly, because the cost of cross-border terrorism has to be raised.
Yes,
And
so
the
you mean to say, Aarti, that there needs to be a statement, that refers and addresses the Pakistan role. Of course, on the killings itself, the Lieutenant Governor has spoken today, but the central government, the union government, actually needs to come out and take a stand. Now, Pakistani army and ISI are not things that we can control. Let's look at what we've done in the last many years to try and resolve this issue. We've carried out our own surgical strikes. We've confronted them at international platforms. We've tried talking to them and then tried to cut off all of our relations. We've tried, cutting off economic ties, putting pressure not just diplomatically or militarily, but also economically. All of that is done, and we stare today at a situation where the challenge is, if not the same, perhaps bigger in the light of what is happening in Afghanistan. Let's look at inwards. Inwards, we hope that all of the development, the new infrastructure projects, the changes in laws will bring about some change. Now, that too, to me, Imran Nabidar at this point seems to have gotten a jolt and, gotten dented in a sense. So then, what are our options?
See, as far as you mentioned development, over the past 2.5 years since the abrogation of Article 370, I have not seen any new development coming to Jammu and Kashmir. All the promises that were made following the abrogation of Article 370, there is nothing substantial that government can claim that we have achieved. What they have been saying all along was this rhetoric and narrative that everything is normal now. Situation is. I think it's a failure on part of the people who narrative of normalcy for the last 2 years, as if they didn't know. Now every analyst, people are saying. I was hearing analysts on your channel about influx of militants from across the border. Some days back, it's the same people were parroting normalcy. They were showing pictures of normalcy across Jammu and Kashmir. They're saying that this is the Naya Kashmir, which is this is the Naya Kashmir. Let me complete. I didn't intervene. Excuse me. I didn't intervene, so let me complete. So what I'm saying is, suddenly now this narrative of cross-border terrorism has been brought in. Where was this cross-border terrorism for the last 2 years? Nobody talked about it. So there is an essential failure on part of the administration and on those, the people who were acting as mediums of that propaganda. They were also saying the same thing. Now suddenly things have gone, from bad to worse, and we are back to square one. No, we need to understand. We need to question those people now. What were you saying for the last 2.5 years that everything is normal? We need to question the authority. The problem is that nobody is asking the incumbent administration, why have you failed? For example, Bindru Saab's killing yesterday. Just 2 blocks away, there is an army camp there, CRPF camp there. Few blocks away, there's a J&K police headquarters there. On that stretch of road, 24 hours there is police patrolling the area, CRPF patrolling the area. In spite of that brutal killing happened yesterday. The same case in Eidgah today, highly militarized area with police everywhere. I fail to understand who is responsible for these things? There has to be some sort of command that what are you doing?
Okay.
As Kora Saab has rightly said that there is a failure. There is a failure of the policy, Kashmir policy, which they have been saying and going gaga for the last 2 years that everything is normal. This is Naya Kashmir. Now we are back to square one. Unfortunately, I mean, these are very, the killings that are going on. Another thing that has been happening, I've been part of many debates over the past 2 days, and I had seen this consistent narrative that has been building. People are trying to give it a color, communal color in it. We need to remind ourselves that let us not bring religion into it. Muslims have also died in this over the last, till date, 25 civilians or 30 civilians. Out of that, about 95% of people who were killed in this year were Muslims. So let us not bring religion into it. It's a failure of the administration. It is failure on part of them to identify what has really happened.
Okay, so you may
Why
want
they
to,
were saying
Imran, one minute,
everything
Mr.
is
Dutt.
normal.
You may, if you're saying that let's not bring in a religious color, and I don't think the idea is to say, oh, only these guys, but the message clearly will be for the minorities and those who are perceived to be close to the government or aiding in their role the development of Naya Kashmir, whether as a teacher or as a businessman. Would you at least agree that is the message? Or else what motive do you see of targeting these specific civilians?
First of all, this bogey of Naya Kashmir is, I mean, it's just a bogey. I mean, it is nothing there.
People may want to believe in it and hope that there will be a Naya Kashmir one day. It may not be today.
I've been telling you all the promises. Tell me how many jobs were given to Jammu and Kashmir in all these 2.5 years.
Okay, no, I get the point you're making. I get the point that you're making. I am
people of Jammu
simply
and
saying, I'm also saying this, that 2 years is not the time to say, oh, everything will change overnight. Mr. Dutt, 2 years will not be enough time for a region that's gone on to see conflict for over 3 decades. For things to change overnight.
Absolutely.
But you cannot deny that people may have hope that things will change. And that's how they perceive it to be, a hope of a Naya Kashmir. That we shouldn't deny. Now, you've raised some crucial points. I will first ask Aarti Tikku to respond to it, and then I will go across to Brigadier Gupta. Aarti, to you first.
Tanvi, thank you for giving me this opportunity to respond, because the remark was against analysts. Well, I, as an analyst, have been saying persistently, anyone can go and check my record, that unless and until Pakistan is made to behave, we will not see a proper resolution, or we will not see peace in Kashmir. And that is what I've been saying even today, that Pakistan, which is the biggest elephant in the room, and it's surprising that people sitting in this panel today, for example, the gentleman who was talking about, analysts, he hesitates to mention Pakistan. He hesitates to mention that Pakistan is the problem. Pakistan should be held accountable. So why this hesitancy? Why this hesitation? Second point is that nobody has said that Kashmir is normal. Kashmir has been an abnormal state for last 30 years. How can you convert Kashmir into a normal place in 2 years? Third point is that, of course, Pakistan will get rattled when there is talk of return and rehabilitation of Kashmiri Pandits, because to begin with, Pakistan's agenda has been to change the demography of Kashmir, which they did in 1990 by ethnically cleansing Kashmiri Pandits. It became a complete Muslim majority and a homogeneous Muslim region in the state. Third point
so it was already a Muslim majority region. It was, if you are, it was already a Muslim majority region. Let us not confuse the numbers here.
Please go and look
J&K
up
has
the word
been
homogeneous.
historically a Muslim majority region. Let us
Please
not
look
bring
up the
that
word
thing.
homogeneous.
They didn't convert anything into Muslim majority.
Okay. Both of you have made your points. I
You
think
cannot say this.
I don't think that is the focus tonight.
I think
Irrespective,
this needs to be
homogeneous,
rebutted.
majority, minority, please. Please, let's not go back to 30 years ago. Let's talk about today. I will request both of you to just take a deep breath. Let's talk about today and
So,
where we go from here.
Let me complete the point.
Yeah.
My point is simply this, that the biggest culprit is Pakistan Army and ISI, which has been feeling emboldened by what has happened in Afghanistan, by the takeover of Afghanistan by the Taliban. And it's a shame that if politicians in Kashmir do not acknowledge Pakistan's role in destroying Kashmir, in having these innocent civilians getting killed day in, day out.
Okay,
Why is this?
Aarti, okay, point made. Yes, they should.
Can I
They
respond
should.
to
They
that?
should definitely
Can I respond
raise
to
this
that?
issue. But let's be honest. I
respond?
think nobody is in denial. The reason many of the Valley leaders and politicians and parties insist on dialogue with Pakistan is because they are very well aware of
Can
the
I
role
respond to
Pakistan
this?
plays in this. Imran, just 1 minute, because you also raised a point to which Brigadier Gupta must also respond. Brigadier Anil Gupta, yes. It's undeniable that there is Pakistan's role in the situation we are looking at. But the question that many political parties today are asking, and Imran's party is one of them, is that isn't this a failure of your government in bringing about a change, in getting a handle on things, even though you've been claiming that you've done so?
You see, there is no end to negative arguments. What the spokesperson Nancy gave was negative arguments. Now to say that everybody's been talking of that there's no cross-border terrorism, it's wrong. It's totally false. Nobody has ever said that cross-border terrorism is finished. Everybody has been talking of that. To say that terrorism will come to an end in Kashmir, nobody ever said that. So all these things of the false narratives are being built just to divert the attention from what is actually happening. He says there's no development. If there's no development, then how come there's a beautiful bypass all around the Srinagar city today, which was never there earlier? There are roads being constructed, there are tunnels being constructed, the highway to Srinagar is being speeded up, the bridge on Chenab has come up, the railway is going to come there but till the next year. So all these things developments are taking place. To say that there's no development taking place, there are development taking place in Jammu, there's development in Kashmir, there's development taking place in Ladakh. Every region is seeing development. There are institutes coming up, educational institutions are coming up, the infrastructure is being built. There is a spurt in business also. Some houses have come, some are waiting to come. But to say that nothing has happened, there's no Naya Kashmir, I think is turning a blind eye to what is the reality. Now, the second point is that our government has tried its best. Our government is determined to bring normalcy to Kashmir. We are not going to leave midway. Things will be sorted out, the culprits will be caught, and they will be punished. Such things will not let happen. But one thing is sure, I want to tell you, that infiltration is not ended. Our infiltration grade in Valley may be strong, but on the international border, we are weak. The gap on the Basanta, the Samba gap, which General Sharma is referring to, is a highway of infiltration these days.
Yeah.
A single layer of the BSF defenses to be crossed, and thereafter, they have a clean run. This is one aspect which I have been talking time and again. Or through your channel, Mr. Kota is also sitting here, I want to draw the attention of the people that they need to look into this, because this is not only for terrorists, it's a narco-terrorism hub. Because from here, the narcotics can be sent to Punjab, they can be sent to Kashmir, they can be used in Jammu. The narco-terrorism is very, very active in this area, and this area is being used. We need to look into it.
Okay, so before we go to our experts, Imran Abidar wanted to come in. Go ahead, please, and make your point.
No, I was just about BJP spokesperson. I mean, the whatever he said, I think it's an
Bad time to lose connection and to lose network there, Imran Abidar. Let's get to the larger question then. And Mr. Koda, we start with you. You say we need a comprehensive policy now. To your mind, what does that entail? What is it that we are lacking in so far that we must now focus on in the light of fresh challenges?
I think there has to be two-dimensional, strategy on this broadly. One is on the internal dimension, other is the external dimension. On internal dimension, we have to take measures to let the Kashmiri feel that he's much better off with India than with Pakistan or being independent. And on the external front, the issue has been discussed very in detail by Aarti also. We need to focus on Pakistan, especially in view of the developments in Afghanistan, in which lots of elite and JAS cadres have got released from there. Tehrik-e-Taliban is also likely to jump in. And then Taliban government as such, it is slightly busy in its internal affairs in Afghanistan. Once their house is set in order, they are also going to lend a helping hand to Pakistan because they have helped, the ISI has helped Taliban in Pakistan in achieving their goal. So it is a reciprocal obligation on them. So we should not be looking at a rosy future in Kashmir. We have to brace up for increased violence. Now, these incidents which have happened recently, these are, one can say, smaller groups have acted, or lone wolf incidents have also happened. But we should not be surprised that a bigger major incident can happen like the one in Pulwama which happened, because they have got emboldened because of the developments. And Pakistan has an obligation to address Kashmir because of its own internal problems and because of its own destabilized situation, internal politics is there. And we have seen at the Idgah incident, the teachers were lined up, identification parade was held, and then the two persons were taken out on the basis of their identity and they were killed.
Yes.
This shows the mindset of the terrorists. They are getting emboldened. Now, about the measures to be taken on ground regarding internal issues, the development has to be combined with the larger issues of ease of doing business. We have not seen any fresh, industrialists, businessmen coming in large numbers into Jammu and Kashmir to invest. Now, there are lots of problems in doing business in Kashmir. Lots of bottlenecks are there. The corruption problem is there. The ease of living is also there. And combined that on top of it is security. The security to the business establishments in Kashmir. If somebody wants to come and invest, you have to create jobs in Kashmir for the youth. The development as far as roads and infrastructure is concerned, that has been done. But that's not going to generate huge jobs. What we require is that the young people, the youth of Kashmir who are jobless, who are not able to make money and who are brainwashed and diverted towards terrorism, they have to be brought back. And no fresh recruitment in their cadre should take place. For that, it is very essential to focus on the youth and addressing the radicalization in Kashmir.
Yes. So, Mr. Kota, what you're saying is right. But I also see it as a chicken and egg situation. Now, we are wanting, and let's just say that, basis the announcements made, the kind of messages that this union government has been sending all this while, there was a lot of hope that people would come in, set up their businesses, changes have been made. But if there is going to be fear about the situation on ground, not too many of them will come right now. They're all in a wait and watch situation. And if that means we're not able to bring about the development, we're not able to bring about the job creation, then we're not going to be able to make the Kashmiris believe as if they are part of the system and anybody cares about them to bring about that change. So we're again stuck in that kind of a problem. Now, do you believe, Mr. Kota, that a part of it will also have to be about forces interacting with the locals there and while addressing radicalization, also somewhere bridging that gap and building, communication bridges? This has been attempted in the past many times, but will it work?
The forces have been constantly for the last 3 decades, they have been interacting with people. The army has a strong system of interacting with the locals and addressing their local requirements, like providing them medicines, providing them all sorts of help in emergencies, addressing the individual needs also. And the police has also a civic action program in operation where they try to open the libraries, open the playgrounds, the sports facilities being provided to youth. That sort of thing is happening on ground, mainly by the forces and the police. But what is required is the effort at the civilian level also, at the establishment level also. The civilian administration has also to gear up to this requirement, to engage youth, to draw them towards the mainstream, to ensure that job creation is done on ground, to get the youth into to make them feel that they are better off as a part of India than being than being elsewhere. So all these measures had to be combined, but the fountainhead of terrorism, that is very essential to be dealt with. And unless India is proactive in targeting Pakistan to eliminate terrorism, not much can be achieved on ground. The brainwashing of the youth or their recruitment in Kashmir is as a result of the Pakistan organizing, fueling terrorism, funding them, providing arms and ammunition, including the narco supplies, narco-driven terrorism. So this is, unless the fountainhead of terrorism is addressed, the other measures will not yield the desired results. They may restore some semblance of normalcy, but terrorism cannot be wiped out at all.
Sharma, would you like to weigh in on this?
You're asking me, Tanvi?
Yes, General Sharma.
Yeah, thank you. See, while we may say there is no Naya Kashmir or there is Naya Kashmir, if anybody who sees this season that has just gone past, there is a tremendous shift that we see from the previous times. We have been students of this whole situation for the last 30 years. The houseboats were full. The Lal Chowk looked as if it is in Hazratganj in Lucknow. There are showrooms of selling cars open across in the valley. So, I mean, the question is, it's not normalcy, but then there was a confidence growing across into people to start doing business. We have people who stayed in Shikaras and come back very happy and interacted with the population. So, there was a change which was evident. It's not dramatic shift. It's not that everything is changed overnight, but there was a change in this season, which was observed by many of these observers and tourists who've gone across there. It's not normal. It wasn't as bad as it used to be earlier. So the change, of course, that is one. Second, I agree with it that there is a Pakistan factor, cannot be denied. It is orchestrated, it is tapped. They open the tap slightly, they may open the tap more in times to come or close the tap. It is the way that they have been doing for quite a long time. Third issue is that there is a radicalization in the southern 4 districts or 5 districts of South Kashmir, and we need to address it in a very focused manner. It may take 1 year, 5 years, may take 10 years. It may be a long drawn process, but we have to actually get down and resolve and get the radicalization sorted, because there are people who have been anguished over a period of time. There has to be a balm to the people who have been anguished and radicalized, and they have to move ahead with life. So there has to be a multi-pronged method of doing all these issues here, and of course, security forces have a great role to perform. We cannot get ham-handed in this manner. We just cannot get. We can't overpower our feelings of anguish against the terrorists. We should make sure that there is no innocent who is being targeted or punished or being put into inconvenience. That will increase radicalization in many more. So there's a very tight rope to be walked by the security forces themselves. This is the time to rile. They're trying to get the security forces be annoyed as what is happening and pushing events backwards. There has to be a great amount of resilience in the security forces also. So it's a very tough period for people to control, but it's a very important period for us to accept that there is a change which has occurred because of an orchestration being carried out, because of a focused plan being carried out by our adversaries across, and therefore we need to now target it. If it suits us to actually seize the ceasefire, let's go ahead and do it. Why should we wait for it to break? Let's do it ourselves. If they are trying to do infiltration, or trying to drop weapons, or trying to drop drugs and do all these things, then what's the ceasefire? Let's get on and say, okay, enough is enough, and we want to sort the issues out thorough and proper.
Sure. General Sharma, just very quick follow-up on that. Basis the fact that there was a massive infiltration attempt just recently, we caught one of their Pakistani terrorists alive. Shouldn't that have been reason enough for us to already end it, to say, well, no more infiltration can be allowed, ceasefire is not something we're going to follow anymore?
Look, it was one infiltration attempt, but there were infiltration attempts also in the Rajouri area and also in Poonch area in the course of last 1 month or so. So there have been attempts being carried out. The fact is, it's not a one attempt of cutting the wire. There were 8 people or 6 people. People got killed. I don't reckon this follow that we have caught Ali Babar makes a difference. We caught Kasab also. The fact is that there is an infrastructure ready to receive these people when they come into Uri Ball, and from there they are being planned to be transported across East and Patan. So if they were planned to transport these people by some organization that is picking them up, taking them to Patan and for distribution of weaponry that they were carrying, we need to do a little work on these issues as to what is happening. You know, the ceasefire may last maybe 1 year, maybe last 1 day. That we have to be prepared, and we are prepared. We can't allow any infiltration to take place. We cannot allow drones or whoever to bring in weaponry which has been surplus and lying across in Afghanistan to be dropped into India, whether it's on the line of control or it's across in the international border, down even in the southern states. We cannot allow this to happen. So it's not a question of Jammu and Kashmir alone. It's a question of across the border, making sure that we are able to protect ourselves against an onslaught which has been planned. It may last now 1 month, but they may have planned to keep it on for a longer time. So we have got to get prepared for it.
Okay, I must emphasize on that one aspect that you raised, and you beautifully put it across when you say that when it comes to handling of the situation, yes, cracking down on terrorists is important. Yes, keeping a tight check on security is important, but you also need to ensure that innocents don't become collateral in it, and that's a fine line that the forces will have to follow, keep in mind constantly, and perhaps will be a very integral part to a solution that, at whatever point we implement, we keep that in mind. A big thank you to all of the panelists for joining us on this conversation. It's not black and white. Unlike a lot of the debates and unlike a lot of the conversations that you may have heard, a lot of the conversations you may have read, the solution to Kashmir isn't black and white. It isn't all friendly or all enemy. It isn't to say that we're going to use a hard stance internally and externally, or to say we're going to use a super soft stance internally and externally. It's a balance that will actually help. And that is what all of our experts, from Mr. Khoda, a former DGP of J&K, to General Sharma, an expert in counterterrorism, and Brigadier Gupta, a veteran who is now in a political party, all three of them seem to be concurring on that. And that, to my mind, is what the government of the day needs to look into. Thank you for joining us on this conversation.